Welcome to the Church of Perpetual Life. Welcome everyone in person and everyone online in YouTube and in Zoom. My name is Neil Vandry, and I'm your officiator here tonight. And if this is your first time, we especially welcome you tonight. Our mission here is to help everyone that wishes to have an unlimited lifespan to be able to do so, to have that chance of an unlimited lifespan in health and longevity. And that's what we're here for. We have regular services once a month, and where we have guest speakers who teach the scientific rationality along with the Creator's plan that humanity evolve and to achieve unlimited lifespans. We want to live indefinitely. We record our services, and you can find past recordings on our YouTube channel. There's a link to the channel on our website in the upper side of the website. So go there where you can see past recordings that we've had. Next month, our service will be March 28th, the fourth Thursday in March. And we are excited to have presentations by Ben Azadi and Dr. Joseph Parida. And they will be speaking about intermittent fasting and intermittent hypoxia. Over the past few months, there have been some great articles in magazines and other longevity research papers and other media on great longevity. If you're a member of the church, you'll notice some of these newsletters as they're posted, the events in the magazines, the discoveries, the research that's going on. This is posted in our newsletters. So if you did not get a newsletter, let us know. If you've signed in and given us your email address, then we can easily send those to you. If you're online and this is your first time and you don't get our newsletters, be sure to send me an email. Send it to the email you find at our website at perpetual.life, and you'll be able to receive these newsletters on events happening at the church and research that's going on throughout the world. All right. Our events are free and open to attend. We do appreciate your donations. If you'd like to make a donation online, you can do that, or here at the church, we have some boxes there where you can make a donation to the church. And these donations help us to continue to have excellent events, and it supports our quest in having a life in health, unlimited health. Perpetual Life Creed, we believe that all of life is sacred and that we have been given this one life to make unlimited. We believe in our Creator's divine plan for all of humanity to have indefinite lifespans in perfect health and eternal joy, rendering death to be optional. And by following our prophets, we achieve eternal life, creating a heaven here on earth. We follow Nikolai Fedorov, who taught that the transcendence of the Creator will only be solved when humanity, through our unified efforts, becomes an instrument of universal resuscitation, when the divine word becomes our divine action. And we follow Arthur C. Clarke, who said the only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. And so we enter each day energized in spirit and empowered by the words of our prophets to live in joy, serving our Creator and all of mankind forever and ever. It's now my pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker tonight, who came all the way from Nevada, Mr. Zack Varkaris. Zack is the scientific director and founder of Austin Biotec. He holds a BSc in marine and molecular biology from Heriot Watt University. And in 2011, he developed a cost-effective algae to biofuel system that produced both diesel and an unexpected byproduct of high-value anti-aging chemicals. Whilst researching the effectiveness of these chemicals, he created an anti-aging topical creams, progressing into stem cell rejuvenation, which resulted in the creation of Exotherapy and Rejucvacyte, procedures to maximize human health and lifespan. Currently, Zack is completing his book on Freud Span. So let's welcome Zack Varkaris. Zack, come on up.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Well, very good to see you all. Thank you very much for coming. And so I'm going to talk about Rejucvacyte and Freud Span in longevity. And what is Freud Span? What is Rejucvacyte? Words you've probably never heard of. You never heard of them because we created them. So that's why. So Rejucvacyte is a stem cell procedure that rejuvenates follicular organs, that is, ovaries, testes, and skin. And Freud Span is a philosophical methodology that imparts the effect emotions have on the biomarkers of aging. And these came about from our research in reversing menopause in women. So just so you know what those terms are, I'm then going to go into the rest of the things that we have. Let's see with this. I'm doing 3 things here at once. There we go, bang. Look at that. So what is currently the most effective way to extend your lifespan? Anyone know? Yeah, you know, the interesting thing is my grandmother's from a blue zone. So that's probably why. So I'm stealing all my grandmother's recipes. So the thing is here is that all of the above is correct. It is the best way to extend your lifespan. But aging is not an illness, like a lot of people say. It's a condition. We know we're all aging at some point. We're all progressing. Every 7 years, your cells determine they replace themselves. So you say, okay, well, how do we do this? There are 2 schools of thought. There is pre-programmed aging, like the Harold Catcher, which is you start as a child, you become an adolescent, you become a full adult, a young adult, a middle-aged adult, an old adult, and you die. So we all start off as babies, and we look similar with a few bits missing, different, and then we differentiate into organisms. The other area is the maintenance system, which is whereby we have to maintain muscles, joints, so on and so forth. Very important. But in actual fact, we believe that it's neither one of these. It's a hybrid system. Because you have to think of your body as a building, okay? So you have a building, and on that building, you sit around, and how long does that building last? Well, that building's on a piece of land, and that land lasts 125 years. Let's call that your telomeres, okay? 125 years. So just for FYI, there'll be a big Q&A session afterwards. This will be quite top line, and everyone wants to ask me technical questions afterwards, they can. Okay, but I'm going to keep this top line to begin with. So with that, you have 125 years of the building. So let's assume you have 125 years. But I don't know about you guys, but I've never known a building need no maintenance for 125 years, right? But different things last at different ages. Bones last 400 years, 500 years. Nerves, the actual nerves themselves could almost be 1,000 years if you wanted to. But I bet you everyone's skin falls apart when they're about 35 years old. So it's like, how do you fix that? And the fastest aging cell in the human body is the female mammary gland. Interesting. That's the fastest aging cell. So we look at the land, as I said, and we look at the building itself. So this is what we're looking at. We're assuming you're going to live to 125. How do we make you live to 125 with the physicality of a fit 45-year-old? Right, so yeah, don't drink too much and don't have too many Big Macs, but apart from that, you'll be okay. So to do that, you have to understand what it means to be a human being, because we are meiotic reproductive organs. That means we are sexually reproductive. We start off as babies looking very similar. And then we differentiate. Men get muscles, deep voices, hair on their chests, and they go around to be like cavemen and go and club the woman on the head to go and grab what they need to grab, right? Women have breasts and hips, and they become female. And what happens is, at a certain age, they then spread their genetics to cross over from each other. And we're not talking about children here. We're talking about understanding don't hate the player, but understanding the game. And that's the most important thing. Because the things that define us, that we all aspire to, is vitality, which is actually related to fertility. Now, it doesn't mean having children. It means understanding that the action of having children keeps you vital. So, as you age, what happens? You start to have protocols. You start to look at certain areas, and my hair's thinning. Okay, I'm going to put some hair on my cream on my head to make it thicker. My muscles are going. I'll take some peptides. I'll do all these things, and suddenly you're playing biological whack-a-mole. This one pops up, bang. That one pops up, bang. And suddenly all you're spending is like this, doing boom, 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 boom. Well, what are you going to do with that? It doesn't really work. So we developed a new protocol, and we said, okay, what is it that keeps you youthful? It is the ability to be fertile. Now, men and women in this area are slightly different. Women have the single biggest rate-determining step of aging is menopause. Now, there are only 5 species on the planet that we know at the moment that have menopause. The other 4 are all marine-based mammals, whether they be dolphins or whales. Why humans have it, we don't have 5 hours to go into it right now, but fundamentally we do. So how do we deal with that? If we could, it would not be stand to reason, if we could delay menopause and keep yourself in the position whereby you would be fertile, it would make most sense, because as you have menopause, what happens? Bone density decreases, hydration decreases, brain fog decreases, or increases rather. You have skin issues, you have muscle retention issues, all these issues that happen. So, okay, well, what do we want to do? Do you want to be doing biological whack-a-mole, whacking them around? Oh my God, that happens, that happens, that happens. Or let's just tell the body, stay in that mode, stay in that mode, stay in that mode. So that's what we looked at. So we started off in 2018 with something called PRP. So exactly, PRP, platelet-rich plasma. And we discovered very quickly that it's not very effective anyone over the age of 40. So the average age of an American male at that time was 61. And then it's gone up to 63 and 65, 66, 69, 70-something now. I know in the last couple of years, lifespans have decreased for a number of reasons. But fundamentally, our perception when it came out was when you were 60, you were an old man. Whereas now, there were heavyweight boxing champions, or middleweight boxing champions, who are like 52 years old. I mean, that's crazy. So the concept of age has changed, so that now we're like, okay, 60 is the new 40, right? 70 is the new 50. You know, my mother's 80 years old and she can do happy clappy push-ups, bang, even now, right? So these are very important things. So this methodology means either you're going to spend your life in constant whack-a-mole, or you're going to spend your life in being able to live your life as easily as possible. And the body knows how to do it, okay? So we realized that we took bone marrow-derived stem cells, because PRP is not strong enough. It just doesn't have the potency or the power. And we looked at ways of rejuvenating sexual function and reproduction, because that is the single most potent way to keep yourself youthful. So we then looked at bone marrow-derived stem cells, and we decided whether to go for autologous or allogenic. Now, autologous means from yourself. Allogenic means from someone else. From the Greek aftologos and allogenos, FYI, but there you go. But so the thing is we like to look at autologous stem cells, because aging is a condition. It is not a disease. So unless you have faulty genetics, it doesn't make sense to introduce foreign material into your body. This doesn't make sense at all. So, as I said, aging is not a genetic issue. So what we discovered was that by doing this, we created a series of unintended consequences. Because scientists think that they can control nature, but we can't. Absolutely. It's way beyond our scope of understanding. So what's much better is, rather than trying to control the wave, you ride that wave. And so we discovered that, as Dr. Howell rightly pointed out, and the lady next to him, that during the pandemic, we had a lot of people that were waiting for us during our procedures. They couldn't go on their procedures, and we had a lot of mental issues and stresses going on during that period. So their mental state was bad, very bad. And we couldn't change anything. We couldn't do anything about it. We couldn't fly them to the clinics. We couldn't go anywhere. And so we had to find a way of giving them the importance of purpose, the blue zone thing. And so what happened from that is we realized that we had to take a step back from the procedure itself and getting people what we called fertility fit. So fertility is part of the endocrine system. The first 5 of those endocrine system are blood pressure, sleeping cycles, appetite, body temperature, and the heart rate, all of which can be controlled by protocols: diet, exercise, supplements, meditation, whatever you want to do. Something that can be done very cost effectively and very cheaply in many ways. Growth and development, well, we're all fully grown. So unless you want to start messing around with that, we just have to forget about it. Now, the next one is very interesting, which is metabolism. When does your metabolism slow down? Anyone out here? Anyone know? No. When does it? 35? Anyone else? No. Try 84. 84. So wait a minute. But hold on a minute. I'm putting on weight when I'm 40 years old. What happened? Because other factors outside of that affect you. So your metabolism fundamentally doesn't slow down. And even at 84, it slows down at 1% a year. So by the time you're 100, you're still running at 84% efficiency, which is pretty good. Yes, I can provide documentation for that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can do, yeah. I can get papers, sure. So sexual function and reproduction, however, can be controlled. And this is where we looked at stem cells. So this is where we come to Rejucvacyte. And Rejucvacyte is a protocol that uses exosomes, autologous exosomes, and mesenchymal stem cells from the top of the sacral, from the bone here. We extract them out, we centrifuge them down to a certain proportion depending on your ovary size, and we re-inject them back into the ovaries, all at the same time. It's about a 1-hour procedure, all in all, and then we monitor you for 9 months afterwards to maintain your hormones, your balance of endocrine systems, and also some people, they want to have children. However, what we discovered from the issues with regard to the pandemic and the first phase that we had was that we had to baseline the candidates. And baselining the candidates had a number of effects that we just didn't factor in at all. We just didn't realize. We can actually get people to be fit and healthy. And we actually had one person, only one, admittedly on the sample size of 111, but only one person who reversed their menopause and started menstruating again at the age of 61 years old with 10 months of fertility, fitness, diet, exercise, and maintenance. Though to be fair to this person, they are a psychologist, and their mental fortitude is phenomenal. So it's slightly, it's outlier. But the point is that baselining the candidates is very important, because if you're going to run a marathon, you don't just get up and run a marathon. You have to get fit. If you're going to run a sprint, you're going to learn for explosive power. This is the same issue here. We're so used to having easy solving, easy this, let's solve this, let's put a Band-Aid on that. Okay, have a pill. Just take this on and have some electrical shocks and you get a six-pack. Well, it doesn't work that way. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. This is how it is. So this works very well. Now, we have a member in the audience here who's actually going through this process right now, which I can introduce you to her afterwards. But where is she? Somewhere here? I can't see her. But so basically, there we go. There she is. So Laura is actually doing the procedure. She lives nearby. So if you want to speak to her afterwards about what we're doing, you're more than welcome to. So baselining candidates, though, is very important, because if you come in and you're 240 pounds, you're overweight, you have bad blood sugar, having those procedures won't work as well. The diet, again, yes, as Dr. Howe said, I have shamelessly borrowed my grandmother's recipes, and it works. But there's an interesting aside to that, which is, does the diet itself make a difference, or is the environment you're in make a difference? And I think there is a combination of those factors. It's a very big thing. So that's a very long cycle that I don't have the answer for. We only have a small sample size. But exercise, again, is very important, moderate exercise. Now, one of the things that we tend to forget, especially men, I know we're talking about women here, but men are very prone to this. They go to the gym and they'll pump some iron and they'll give it all this and, you know, here we go, and I look great, look at my guns, right? But actually, what they should be doing is focusing on their weakest point, because a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And so men and women as well, they tend to focus on their strongest aspects, not their weakest. So our exercise routine focuses on your weakest aspects. And when you baseline a candidate, we don't just come in and say, hey, here you go, do a blood test, it's fine. You do a blood test, a DNA scan, a gut biome test, a brain scan, a questionnaire for mental health, as well as an emotional questionnaire. So we have 7 tests, and between these 7 tests, we can analyze it. So to give you an example, we have someone who comes in and they are from, so I'm from Crete in Greece, okay? So in Greece, we have certain genetic characteristics that make us immune to certain issues, but also we have a tendency towards other issues. So we're immune to cholesterol from red meat, but we have a tendency towards strokes. So because you know that, you can design a diet that will mitigate those effects. And most of the belief, our belief is that environment far outweighs genetics within the range of keeping to 125 years, okay? Let's still keep in the 125 years. We're not talking about immortality. We're talking about practical mortality and for the next 125 years. And no one here, I'm probably over 80, right? So that means you've got at least another 65 years to go, right? So at minimum, it's quite a long time. Because even at 80, you're only a grown-up for 60 years. So think about it, doubling your lifespan. So the exercise is very important. And that is important, and that we do that with tests. So the other work is blood work. Now, again, you look at your genetics, you look at the issues that you can have. If you have the lady who's done our food here, she is looking at doing blood work with regard to, say you have blood group O. You have an O blood group, you can have more red meat. If you have a B blood group, an A blood group, you can have more plant-based protein. So when I have an O blood group, if I go vegan, I balloon out and get really fat. I have to eat steak. I have to eat steak and salad, and that's how it is, and cut down the carbs. It's just how it works. Everyone's slightly different. If you're Asian, you often have an AB blood group. And these things factor in. And you have to look at those things, and each one of these points makes a difference. So that's very important. You wouldn't think about it otherwise, but for the sake of those 7 tests, it makes a difference. So those results, we then monitor you for 9 months afterwards. So we come to the next point, Freud Span. We don't believe in lifespan, and we don't believe in health span. We believe in Freud Span, which is joy span, which we call the quantitative effects that emotions have on the biomarkers of aging. What does that mean? I'm sure everyone's heard of dying of a broken heart, or people have heard about their hair turns white after a traumatic event. Well, those events that happen because they affect your actual biology. Now, we can call it cortisol, adrenaline, whatever you want to call it. But there are very hidden markers. For instance, I'll give an example. You do a DNA test and you discover you have a propensity towards an IL-117 inflammation in the brain. And that causes you to have the tendency towards Alzheimer's. Doesn't mean you're going to get Alzheimer's. But inflammation will cause Alzheimer's eventually. So you have to mitigate it. So it's a bit like, if you don't do something about it straight away, it will build up too far gone, the rust will get too far, and then you can't fix the car at all. So by doing that, if you know you have that tendency, you know that if you then have a reaction with your stressful, say you have a reaction whereby as a person you absorb the bad energy in if you have an argument, you let it go inside you like this. And so what happens is you create a cortisol level, increased level, and then you also have a high sugar diet, boom, you're screwed. Forget about it. You're going to be done. Whereas if you understand that your emotions keep you calm. Now, one of the problems with this, of course, is that when you say something like emotions, it's so qualitative. It doesn't give you an actual number. Oh, you're selling me snake oil. It doesn't make sense. Okay. The important thing here is that we focus it purely back to, as we were saying, the endocrine system. sexual function and reproduction. So we're keeping it very simple. It doesn't mean you can't apply it in other areas of your life. We're just applying it just solely on your ovaries, your testes, how to keep those really, really functioning properly. And we have noticed this, and I'm sure Laura can actually attest to this, yourself calm and steady, you actually will improve your estradiol, you'll improve your cortisol, and also improve your adrenaline overflow when you're stressing out about certain things. So the next phase. We're in phase 2 right now. We have 2 clinics based in Mexico, one in Tijuana, one in Mexico City. We have the original clinic based in Europe, and we're looking to open a further clinic in Asia. We will hopefully have this year 1,000 people signed up, either going through it or in the process of going through it, because the whole procedure takes about a year. 90 days to baseline, to get you fertility fit. We do the blood work, we check you out. You then do a 1-day procedure, and we monitor you for 9 months afterwards. And that's very important, because that data afterwards is what really counts. And that's how we can really improve on this procedure and get it moving forward. The same technology that is used for ovaries and testes can be used on skin and keep you youthful. Now, everyone wants to look good, right? So skin is a follicular organ, and skin is a big barrier to infection, to health. And under menopause, skin ages faster. Now, men, by the way, all you guys out there, we have the same problem. We just think we're invincible, but we just fall over a cliff at 18. We just don't realize it. But it's with women, it's a very clear rate determining step. And so we can use the same principles of like a vampire facial that I'm sure you've all heard of vampire facials with PRP. Well, you can do that with stem cells again, and we inject it into the certain part of the skin to reduce and get rid of lines and keep elastin within that. There is a serum we have, which I said, Rudy, I'll give you some. I've got a little bit, some of it here, if you want. We have a serum with it, which is using those chemicals that we had, which is very good for hydrating the skin. But hydration and fat content are easily manageable. But the elastin is very difficult to put back into the skin, and you have to find a way to put that in. So we are working with a top plastic surgeon based out of, it's actually in Boca Raton as well, but in San Antonio, Texas, who's been working with us on this. So again, it's an aesthetics area, and we are looking at skin, rejuvenating the skin with the same procedure. But this is the last bit, which in many ways is very difficult to deal with, and that's the regulatory and liability issues. The thing with the medical world is you can do everything right, and it can still go wrong. And everyone's very quick to blame you. And the problem with something like this that's new, something that is trying to make a difference, is that people are very quick to chop you off at the knees. And this is the key area that we need to do. And the way around this is a number of areas. One of them is to have enough people with enough data to show that what we're doing makes a difference, because then it's just an actuarial or mathematical issue, and you can't argue with that. The other area is to cover ourselves from legalities of being sued and so on and so forth. But the only way around that is to have enough people to do this. And so the future, well, the future looks good. We want to maximize the protocol. We want to have 100% success rate. At the moment, we work on around about 85% success rate. But again, as I said, the sample size is extremely small. So as things increase, we obviously have now much more data, just even on the fertility fitness package. We want to improve the success rate. And we obviously want to cover insurance liability and make the cost affordable to most people. It's not just about for the rich people. This is about something that's affordable for the 10%ers, the people that are earning 100,000 a year, who are struggling to pay their bills, who have families, who need to have that energy, who need to have that wherewithal. That's where we want to be. And we want to become nationwide, certainly in the United States, but across the world. I mean, the numbers are staggering in the United States. There are 14 million women who are eligible for this between the ages of 38 and 48. Between the ages of 38 and 58, the number goes up to 30 million women. And if you go up to 75, factoring in issues with cancer markers, it's about 70. It's a huge number. So that's pretty much the end of my talk. I wanted to keep it top line. I'm very happy to ask any questions. You can be as technical as you want. If I don't know the answer, I can get back to you. So fire away.
Questions for Zack? Here we go. Peter, let's go to you first.
Zack, so my mom did hormone replacement therapy with Premarin, and it kept her from getting Alzheimer's, but her sister got Alzheimer's at a much younger age, did not do hormone replacement therapy. How is what you're doing different from bioidentical hormone replacement, which is very popular here in South Florida?
Great question. Well, the difference is that you need 5 times more hormones for bioidentical hormone replacement therapy than you do with our system, number one. Number two, HRT does work with Alzheimer's. Now, I don't know what's your ethnic background? So you're Eastern European? Well, so that's Slav. You're Slavic. Okay. So you're Western Slav. So there are you Ashkenazi at all? No. Okay. So basically, just a general Northern European mix. So okay. So HRT, it works very well. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it's not as efficient as what we do, because the big issue is this: estrogen in the body is not produced as estrogen. It's testosterone, exactly. It amortizes to E2 estradiol, and then what happens with that is when it amerases, that is the issue that you have. So it's a bit like saying I'm putting fake sugar in my body. I mean, it's just not as good as real sugar, is it? I mean, it's just not. So the reality is that HRT works, but if you can teach your body or show your body how to produce your own hormones, it's more effective. You need 20% of the amount, so 80% less. You also have the benefits of other areas of that, which is, as I said, putting hormones in, and this is where it's, again, beyond what we know everything of, but if you put in hormones, you're basically playing biological whack-a-mole. I'll put some testosterone, that covers this. Why did your auntie get Alzheimer's and not your mother?
It runs in the family. So my grandparents, both my mother and father, my maternal grandparents both had Alzheimer's in their 70s and 80s. But, it looks like for my mom, it was vascular dementia. So for some reason, the hormones made a big difference for my mom. And my aunt died at barely 70, and my mom lived to 90.
HRT works, but this is a more effective way of doing it.
What are you doing? You're putting a stem cell in the ovaries, or what?
Yes, exactly right. So the testosterone that's produced in your body is produced in 2 areas, the adrenal gland and the ovaries, 50% split. 50% is the ovaries and surrounding tissue, 50% the adrenal gland and surrounding tissue. So what we do...
Adrenal glands on top of the renal, on top of the kidney. You got an adrenal gland in your neck, too?
Sorry, I was just touching my neck, sorry. It's fine.
Okay, this is the thyroid. The thyroid up here.
Yeah, my neck. You're getting me nervous now.
Yeah,
but there you go. But basically, they're the two areas. So what we're doing is we're controlling 50% of the hormones that go into your body from that area. So that's a much more effective way of doing it. And the results have been particularly good. So we've had estradiols go from as low as 22 down, from 22 right up to like 115.
Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. In average age, 52 years old, yeah.
Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. And what's interesting about it, right, is not just, this is what I'm saying, is like it's not just about the procedure, just the exercise routines that we've done, the hip opening exercise, like a form of yoga and calisthenics, has increased the actual estrogen production from premenopausal level to postmenopausal in mid-50-year-old women. Now, admittedly, they were fit, but two of them had Lyme's disease. There was other people that had other different issues. So we were shocked at how much the interventions themselves actually made a difference. It's not just putting the stem cells in, it's preparing that person. And that was what really shocked us, because we had no idea that it would be that effective.
How many total patients have you
111.
treated? 111. Okay, so you're really phase 1 clinical.
Yeah,
trial.
yeah. Phase 1. There we are.
And when was the first patient started?
2019. 2019.
Oh, a while ago.
2019. And so
She's still alive?
don't know. No, she's alive, yes. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
I have a question from Gennady.
Yes, thank you. So, given your studies of female reproductive health and longevity, I'm curious if you could provide a hypothesis as to the persistent difference in longevity between males and females, which doesn't just hold at younger ages, it holds at the longest ages to which either gender has lived. So the oldest woman ever lived to be 122, the oldest man ever lived to be 116. And this can no longer be explained at those late ages by, say, greater risk aversion among women, or women taking better incremental care of their health in middle age, at least statistically speaking. So what do you think is responsible for the fact that at the oldest ages, which either gender has been able to attain, women still outlive men by about 6 years?
Right. That's actually not true. So what's interesting is, yes, the oldest is a Belgian lady, isn't it, who smoked till she was 104 and gave Van Gogh his first cigarette absinthe or something, right? Yeah. But interestingly enough, in the blue zones, when you start going to superannuated 105 plus, more men outlive women. Now, even though maybe the oldest person is a woman recorded, and we don't know for sure about those figures, because there could be other people that could be older, we don't know. But men actually, weirdly enough, they outlive women longer once they get to that age of superannuated. I don't know the answer to that. I have a theory that men are more simple, and so they have fewer moving parts. They're like like an AK-47. It's like you can bury it and it will work. But with women, there are more moving parts to them. I also think the other reason is that men don't take care of themselves as much, and that comes to bite you later on in life. So as I said, I'm from Crete, and in Crete, there's in the mountains, we are immune to cholesterol from red meat. It just happens. It's how it is. There's some people in the White Mountains. So you'd think that Cretan men would live a long time, but they don't, because they all drink and smoke and they all do crazy stuff. So that actually all the good stuff that they were given, it mitigates it. And you have other people who are very unhealthy and they live a long time. So I don't know the answer to that. And the thing is, what we're doing is a work in progress. So anyone now, as I said, now, 100 years old is going to become more commonplace. It just is. I don't know the answer. But it's things that we're monitoring going forward. These are things we're monitoring, things like exercise routines. Mental health is huge, again. And it requires data. And data is, even if everyone here decided to do nothing about it and they just came and did the basic questionnaire, that data alone would be hugely beneficial for us, just alone.
I have a question back here from Bree.
Hello.
Hello?
I heard that you were saying that part of the program will be to delay the menopause. How long? Because I was glad when my one came at 55. I don't want it back.
Okay, so you are, what's your ethnicity, if you don't mind me asking?
Europe.
Okay.
My father was English and Irish.
Irish, okay. So you're a European white woman, the average age for menopause is 50 to 51 years old. At 55 years old, you're 4 years past menopause, which means on average, you're going to live 8.5 years longer than a woman who goes through menopause at 50 years old.
You have to hold me, honey.
And the reason being is I understand, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. I'm sorry, you just can't have everything your own way. So in that sense, I understand it's very difficult. Obviously, I don't have menstrual cycles, so I don't understand those things. But in terms of living longer, what happens is when you go through menopause, your aging increases. It starts to speed up. So you say, oh, well, I'm fine. I don't have those issues. But what happens is your bone density starts to decrease. So you have to then exercise more so. So by delaying your menopause, even 3 or 5 years longer, you've given yourself not just an extra 2.1 years for every year you delay it, but you've also given the ability for your body to slow down its aging. So at 55 you went through, which means that you've given yourself an extra 8.4 years, but when you eventually start to go through menopause, when you slow down, it's going to have a knock-on effect. So you're living an extra 10 years of quality. So it's not just length of life, it's quality of life.
Okay,
So
so
that's
it doesn't mean that it's going to come back if I go to a treatment.
Oh, yeah, it will do. It could be. Yeah, 85% success rate. Yeah, for that. Yeah. But it depends. Look, I can't give you the answer because I'd have to do tests. You'd have to do. I can't just say to you, yes, this will happen. You would have to speak to us, and we'd have to go through it, and then analysis. But yes, but you will certainly have increase in hormone levels. You'll certainly have better hydration, clearer mental capacity, for sure. Yeah.
I have a question now from Chase.
You mentioned that you get your stem cells autologously from bone marrow. I want to know how you extracted that. You also mentioned for the men in this audience that it starts at 18, but did not elaborate at all on that. So some kind of explanation for what that is.
Okay. Okay. So primarily this is focused on women. So with stem cells, how do you do it? You go into the procedure, you go under an anesthetic. It is general, but it's through an injection, not orally, so it's not so intense. There's a big needle that comes in and it sticks into the top of your bone and sucks out 60 mil of stem cells, which you then centrifuge down to 9 mil. And using that, we apply that with your own autologous exosomes, which we've taken from your blood previously, about 3 weeks previously. That takes about 90 minutes of centrifuging to get down right, which is quite a considerable amount of time of centrifuging. The stem cells is only a 2-minute spin. And then we put the two together and we analyze that to exactly the size of your body compared to your ovary size, compared to your blood work. And we put an exact, think of it like a sort of Coca-Cola recipe. You know, it's a special recipe that we put in and inject it in. That's how we do it. The whole procedure is done from beginning to end. You go in and say 9 in the morning, you'll be out by 10:15. But you have to wait around and stay the night next door in the hotel just to make sure there's no issues. And then you're free, you're released, and we monitor you every 3 weeks afterward. No, they don't differentiate into hormones. What they do is the stem cells will differentiate into ova, and also they will actually have a way of improving the actual quality of the actual ovarian cells and surrounding tissues. So the exosomes are applied to it like a form of biological chewing gum, and it sticks to it. And so that way it attaches it on, and it works that way. They can be over, yeah. You want to know about the 18-year-old? One second, the 18-year-old. So women have a clear rate-determining step. Up until the point of menopause, women have a far greater resistance to cholesterol, to heart disease, to you name it. It's like basically they are designed to be carrying children. They have to be as strong as they possibly can. But with men, we don't need to do that. So 18 is a bit of hyperbole. It's not really 18, but you stop growing at 25. So it's possible that a lot of men, they start, there's no clear rate determining step. There's no clear andropause where a man starts to fall apart. Not fall apart's the wrong word, but it starts, this is what happens. No. But what happens with men is that they tend to have very bad lifestyle. And so they assume that they can do certain things, and that's why I say they fall off a cliff at 18. I mean, how many guys, when they turn 30, they suddenly put on loads of weight and they're not healthy? And a lot of it's because of comfort. They're in a relationship, or they're working, and their lifestyle's different, but their metabolism hasn't slowed down. their muscularity hasn't slowed down. In actual fact, you're strongest in your 50s, not in your 30s. But your recovery is better in your 20s. So all these, what we call the mosaic pattern of Freud Span, it's a mosaic, which is something we're writing about at the moment. So there is your peak learning abilities from languages at 10 years old. Your peak strength is in your 50s. Yet you can't actually balance them all together because you don't have the ability to deliver it because your weakest, the weakest link in the chain is what breaks you. So with men, we tend to ignore it. That's what I meant. We fall off a cliff at 18. Doesn't mean you can't do stuff, but yeah.
I have a question here from Chance.
Yeah, hi, I was interested in your algae to biofuel system. Is that work published somewhere or going to be published somewhere?
Yeah, it's a machine that I co-created with some people at Old Dominion University in 2011. There's a patent out on it, which is now lapsed. I can give you the information afterwards if you want.
Okay, but it hasn't been published in a journal anywhere?
Yeah, you can speak to Pat Hatcher. He's a professor at Harvard now. I can put you in touch with him.
Okay.
Doesn't matter the algae, it's any algae. Senodesmus chlorellus is actually the one we used, but.
Zach, I have a question from Zoom, from online, and it's, if a woman gets pregnant at 56, what happens to her bones and hormones?
With bones, that the procedure itself will actually improve your bone structure and your hormonal system before you can even get pregnant. So it would make no difference. The issue is about how long you're going to live afterwards with having the child. So you would have to be fit enough to be able to get pregnant to begin with in the first place.
Okay, question back here from Don.
Yeah, I want to ask you two quick questions. You said that the oldest living lady in America was 122, right?
Belgium.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because I have a degree in this stuff that you're talking about for 50 years, the human body and study of physical exercise. This lady, I think David Murrell on ABC News at 6:30 said that this lady, it was about 3-4 years ago, what her secret was, why she lived to be long. Now, if I say this to you, most people in this room probably be dead. She said she eats bacon, eggs, and sausage every day. So I said, I almost fell out of my chair when I heard that. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that, if that's the same person?
Well, the thing is, I don't know who you're talking about, because the person Gennady was talking about, she's this Belgian lady. So I don't know those exact names and answers, but I will say this, is that bacon, eggs, and sausage I highly recommend personally, but for myself.
Right.
And likewise, I mean, one of the reasons we came up with Freud Span is my grandfather died at the age of 76, and it was a shock to the family, from a family of long livers. And he died at 76, and we're like, what happened? And we discovered after he died that something happened with my auntie, and he died of a broken heart. And his brothers, one is still alive, he's 102. And they basically eat all those things you're talking about. Diet is a very interesting thing. I think one of the issues is that with diet is understanding your blood type.
Yeah,
understanding. So if you're no positive blood type, you want to have meat-based diets. You want to understand. That's why we do the genetic tests, because look, you're a doctor, you're a scientist, right?
Yeah.
So you know full well you've got to have your basic baselining candidates. You've got to baseline everything, have it, have a control methodology. And if you just have, I just want to do something, you don't understand what that is. So again, that lady saying she ate bacon, eggs, and sausage, that's fantastic. But what was her blood type? What was her mental health? What was her socialization?
Exactly. There's a
Did
lot of
she believe in
factors.
something? There's a lot of other factors. Whether my uncle Anthony's still alive, and my grandfather Andrew is dead. Right? And they're both virtually identical looking. What was the factors that changed it? That's environment over genetics, and that's what I think is those epigenetic factors are far greater than people give it credit.
Yeah, because everybody's body's different. Now, the second part I wanted to ask you said the metabolism slows down at 81. I'd never heard of that
84,
before.
yeah. I can give you the papers for that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can give you the papers for that afterwards.
Okay.
But
All right.
I'm very happy to go offline.
Good presentation, though. Thank you.
A question back on Zoom. I'm going to be right up there, Nurse Pat. But first in Zoom, we have, what qualifies fully functioning reproductive system, a woman in her 60s?
For us, it's not about having children. It's about the ability to produce hormones at a level that allow you to have children. And that gives you the benefits of being able to be healthy, or the benefits of having that fertility health. So in other words, if you're producing those hormones, your bones will be denser, your skin will be more supple, your brain fog will be clearer.
I have a question here from Nurse Pat.
Does elevated C-reactive protein have an effect on aging is my first question. And my second comment is, vets will tell you that a smaller dog, as is the front row here, live longer than big dogs. I know if you're underweight, you tend to live longer because of less apoptosis. Is there any data to suggest longevity related to body mass? And I might be uncomfortable with that response.
Okay, CRP. I don't know the answer to that. Sorry, I don't know the answer. Yeah, I know what it is, but we test for CRP. But is that a thing in isolation? Is it does it affect longevity? I don't know the answer. We just check for it on CRP. If you have a lot of CRP, it can create breakdowns and so on and so forth in cells, but it's just a test. In terms of body mass and size, that's a very interesting point. If you look at, let's forget people being overweight. Let's just talk about actual size. The way your body works, if you take someone who's over 6'10" in height, they will live less years. Giants don't live. I think the technical definition of a giant is 7 foot. So if you're above 6'10", if you look at lifespans of people, they don't live very long. All the basketball players, they don't live long. And it's not because they do steroids. It's maybe they do, I don't know. Yes, exactly. Because the heart's further away, exactly. So that's one answer. In terms of body mass and body weight, I don't know the answer. I mean, I personally wouldn't be too overweight because it causes too much stress on your body and joints on your body. But it's not it depends. With women, there's an optimum body fat height, which is body fat content, which is slightly greater than men. Oh, you mean that's why women live longer than men? Is that what you mean? No, I don't agree with that. No. Because under the height of under 6'8", 6'9", it makes no difference because the distance is not that great. It's just for some reason the heart seems to max out. So at the moment heights have grown average. Average height has gone up and up and up. But I think we're becoming very close to peak physical size. You're going to start seeing men that aren't going to be much higher than 6'7", 6'8", because it just. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying that its height is also different. So if you're from a maritime nation, like a seafaring nation, they tend to be shorter. Mountain people tend to be bigger. I don't know why that is, but they just tend to be. I don't know the answer to that.
Zach, I have a question back here from Linda.
Questions. Yes, I understand you had mentioned something about menopause earlier, and I've read and I've heard that if a woman gets her period earlier, then she'll get her menopause earlier as well. And if she gets it later, which is what happened to me, I got it later. Everybody else had it, didn't know what it was. And then I got it, and then I also had the delay on the menopause. That's one thing, and I don't know if you agree, but is there a correlation between early period and early menopause?
Right, yeah, that's a good question. There is a correlation. One of the papers that we used to research it with talked about the age of menarche over menopause. Menarche is the start of periods. And there tends to be a correlation. I don't have the answer to that. I just don't. All I know is that the later you go through menopause tends to be that you live longer. Now, I really don't have the answer to that. And it's also something that we're not really looked into fully yet.
I also have another question about the last 8 or 9 years I've been taking troches, hormone replacement, with 4 different ingredients in it: progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and DHEA. And it helped me with thickening up the lining of the uterine, so that I wouldn't get urinary tract infections
Yes.
or anything like that. But it also is considered anti-aging.
Yes.
Maybe I aged down, or maybe I stayed the same. But everyone always says, you look the same as you've lived years ago. You haven't really aged that much. And the other thing was that I go to life extension twice a year, and I get my blood taken, and I get my hormones tested to make sure I'm on the right amount so that it could be adjusted each time I get a box of troches, which are natural hormone replacement. So,
All right. So, I mean, I don't know your data and your figures, but I mean, that's basically what our system does. It does the same thing, but instead of you taking a pill, it is reigniting your body to do it for itself. And obviously it depends on I don't know your actual data, so I can't give you an answer without looking at your paperwork or your figures. But basically what this does is increases your hormone level, so your uterine lining will go thicker. You will produce better, because progesterone is designed for the uterus to go thicker, so when you release the egg. Well, that's what DHEA does as well. So that's very clear. But obviously we have the estrogen as well, and those things combine, and testosterone, again, then emanates into estrogen. So all of these factors that you do, that's what our system does. And it's the ovaries and the surrounding areas, everything.
A question here from Laura.
Yes, hello, good evening.
Hi, Laura.
I am be going to get the exotherapy procedure, and I'm very excited about it. I'm going to Santa Fe, Mexico. So I just had one quick question for you. I know you have a lot of questions. You know, you mentioned exosomes. I just wanted to know if you could elaborate a little bit about how it acts like a glue, and what is the significance that with the stem cells.
Right.
If you could, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So exosomes are, I'm sure a lot of people have exosomes IV. I'm sure a lot of people have done them here. So exosomes are like an envelope, and they have an address on them, and they send, you don't necessarily know where they go in the system, but they go to different parts of your body. So what we do is we take your exosomes, your own personal ones from your blood, platelet poor plasma exosomes specifically, not PRP ones, but PPP. So when you get the PRP, the remaining stuff is actually quite good. And we take that out, and we centrifuge it down, and it uses it like whereby when you have your stem cells, you put the stem cells with the exosomes, and so the exosomes act like a binder, and they clip onto the relevant organ. So you're injecting it into the ovaries, so the exosomes will act as a way of sticking the stem cells long enough onto the ovaries to allow them to differentiate into the cells that you require. Yeah.
Question here from Bob.
Yes, actually two questions. One, when you do the procedure with the exosomes and the stem cells, is that a one-time procedure, and then the woman's finished, or do you have to do repeat
Great
procedures?
question. Okay, so we originally thought when we started it was going to be 6 months effectiveness. It so far works out to about 3 years. So we're assuming every 3 years you need to update it. That's with the exosomes and stem cells. But the actual procedure of extracting them in the procedure, are you talking about the actual procedure itself, or how long it lasts for?
Well, extracting and then injecting.
Okay. Right. So it lasts for about 3 years. That's our plan. Every 3 years you have to update. Yeah, every 3 years, which is not too bad, I think. Yeah, you can. Yeah, we actually offer that as well. Yeah. So the other thing is that with exosomes, the procedure of extracting autologous exosomes, your own ones, takes so long that you have to do it 3 weeks before the procedure. And there's enough in those exosomes that we extract to use one procedure and then save some for a second procedure if you want to do it later on. But we can also cryogenically freeze stem cells, yeah.
Well, first of all, that would be different between the bioidentical hormone replacement,
Yeah.
which you have to do monthly, versus your procedure
Yeah.
that could potentially last 3 years.
Yeah.
Second question is just roughly, what's the cost of something like this?
The whole thing, door to door, $19,000. Everything. However, what we've done is we've kept it. So if you factor that over 3 years, it's actually not that expensive, I suppose. Depends how you look at it. But if you look at it with our procedure itself of getting your testing done, your fertility fitness done, not everyone needs to have all the procedure done at one point. So what you're looking at is you're saying, okay, I run a test for $1,500, and for the $1,500, it gives you a roadmap for the next 15 years of your life. Now, you might not need to have a procedure. And as far as we're concerned, we're in the longevity world, so we don't mind if you come now, we come in 5 years' time. It's fine for us. So what we care about is doing what's right for you. And that means that we have to make sure that we have the right procedures with the right data behind it. So that's the most important thing. Now, the other thing here is depending on what age you are. So if you're, say, 60 years old and you're coming to us, there's a lot more things that we have to deal with because you just got more wear and tear. Also, there could be other areas or important things that you want to do with your life, that you want to have children or you don't want to have children, whatever it is. The priorities are different, right? So the earlier you come to us, the better it is. It doesn't mean you're going to have to use all the procedures. So in real terms, you're talking about a $3,000 incrementational payment at the beginning of something, right up to the full procedure itself. Ideally, though, from my personal viewpoint, is I would like to bring that cost right down. And the more people that come to do this, the lower I could get it. And that would be the best thing ever for us, for everyone.
I have a question back here from Leonardo.
Curious question. So you delay menopause and you may live longer, maybe with more health. You delay puberty, same thing, or?
No, we're not doing puberty blocker stuff, no.
I have a question over here with Dr. Howe. Are you ready?
Hi there, yes. Great presentation, great stuff you're doing. I'd like to get a chance to speak more with you. But right now, in favor of everyone's time, just two quick questions. Number one, what do you have any comparative data on the use of precursors and secretagogues such as Dioscorea in comparison to the work that you're doing in hormone control? No. Okay. The other one is, what do you think of the rising popularity of using IGF-1 from deer antler velvet? You know anything about that?
No.
Okay.
Take me offline with that. No.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a question from online, if you could address. Are there any conditions that disqualify a woman from your procedures?
Yes, absolutely. So we do full cancer marker tests, obviously CA125, CA19, remember karyotyping, because when you ignite the system again, you're igniting everything. So if you've got cancer markers, we obviously won't do it. Well, I think technically we can't stop you doing it, but we don't do it. The other thing, though, is there are other areas. So if you've had significant injuries or pelvic injuries, or there's been obviously certain parts, organs removed, so on and so forth, these can discount you. Also having genetic issues. If you have certain genetic issues, we can't use your, so say for instance you have a PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or POF, premature ovarian failure. If you have that genetic tendency in your body, by taking your own autologous stem cells and putting back in, it's not going to help anything. It's just you have to put something allogenic. Now, there is a surgeon called Professor Al-Hendi in the University of Chicago, who I've spoken at length with, and his whole team. They're working on allogenic stem cells in that area. But for us, it's not about fertility, it's about longevity.
Thank you. Here's a question from Chase.
So you mentioned that the duration that this treatment lasts is expected to be 3 years, and some people mentioned like doing it early. Do you expect that if you got your bone marrow extracted and cryopreserved younger, that the treatment would last longer using more youthful cells?
You know, I don't know the answer. The thing with stem cells is that everyone says that you get older, your stem cells get worse. Well, I don't agree with that without getting into details on that. I just think the concentration gets less because there's more senescence, there's a build-up, That's the sort of classic sort of rule of thumb. So obviously we clean out all of the dead cells. Personally, if with my children, I'd say, yeah, here, 16th birthday, here, have your stem cells frozen. Just, what's the harm? Freeze them and keep them. Because the thing is, you don't know, you might be exposed to some radiation a month from now. I mean, hopefully you won't, but I'm just saying. And then your stem cells are screwed. So you might as well just have them safe while you can and keep them safe there. But will that affect the speed or how long it lasts? I don't know that answer. I'm sorry.
How long would you want to keep a woman in her menstrual cycle? What would be the ultimate? Until she's 90 years old? She's 100? Is there an age where you would say, okay, that's it?
It's not really your decision, is it? I don't know. I mean, that's for them to decide. Oh, for me personally.
For a woman to recommend for a woman to have the longest.
Okay, was it? I think it was George Carlin, right? George Carlin said, he was saying, you know, if I got a car, right? My life is my life going to be that I just poodle along and I'm 100 years old and I just park a perfectly parked car? Or do I want to drive this thing like crazy and then just screech him right at the end and fall off dead? So I think in that sense, I would want to maximize my vitality as a woman or as a man. I mean, I'm going to be doing this myself at some point in the future. I mean, I'm going to take my own stuff, you know. So I wouldn't want to maximize my 125 years on this planet. Just say. I mean, we can extend telomeres. We can. But just assume 125, right? I mean, how old are you, if you don't mind asking? 61. So you've got another 64 years. You're not even halfway through yet. So you've only been a grown-up for 40 years. I mean, that's officially, and who knows, and in reality, but in 40 years, right? So you've got another 60 years of being a grown-up. So you want to maximize that vitality. Yes, some of it's about how you look, sure. Do you want to look 21? No. But do you want to have the vitality? Yes, you do. So for a woman, because that is a very clear, now some women are different. Obviously, we've spoken, I think we've had 865 people go through the whole system at some point. There's 865 people at some point in the whole stage of this process. 111 have gone through. So for some women, it's like, I don't want to have periods, but I want to stay vital. Well, okay. You can't have your cake and eat it. It's like a guy says, I want to be strong and masculine, but I don't want to have that sort of temper. Well, sorry, mate, it doesn't work that way. That's what testosterone does. You have to accept it. The thing is, your mental state is such that you learn how to handle it. When you were 20 years old, you probably had a much bigger temper than you do now. You probably sweated the small stuff much more than you do now. You know? But what you can't do is, I can't do the things I could do at 20, right? But you can. That's what we're trying to do. But it doesn't mean you're going to be a different person. You're not going to be that 20-year-old. You have experience, unless you forget everything you've learned. So it's the same with women. So I personally think the longer you can stay vital as a woman, the better. I mean, I'm just saying, whatever works for them. We're just giving them an option. And the best option we can give them, that's for them to decide. And as long as it's efficacious and safe, and we're doing our bit right, who's to say what they can and can't do? That's their choice, mine.
Zach, 125 is great, but I'd like to see us blast into 200 or 250 even, you know? That's what we're all about here. But thank you for that. Yes.
I understand that. I understand that. But the thing is, you're not going to make 250 if you don't make 125.
That's right.
And the thing is like, can you do what you can do now? You're 61, right? Can you run now what you could do at 40 years old?
Not yet.
Right. So wouldn't it not make more sense to stay at that point of being 61 and running that fitness? So, right.
Okay. Here's a question from Kathy.
Hi, very nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to know what you said something about averages. What are the average years a woman has to be fertile?
Okay, great question. So that varies by race. But there's interesting, though, because as Dr. Howe was saying about blue zones and so on and so forth, it's also to do with environment. So on average, a white American woman, when I say white, I mean Northern European and Southern European, so like the whole range, Northeast, Southwest, is about 51 years old. The average African American woman is 49 years old. The average Southeast Asian is 48 years old. The average East Asian and South Asian splits into North South Asian and South South Asian, which is slightly different, is between 50 and 52 years old, depending, right? Now, I have a theory on this. This is my own personal theory. I call it the latitude theory. So that if you go onto a map on the globe and you look at people, the longest livers in the world tend to be in similar latitudes, even though in different parts of the world. So you can be from Italy, Greece, which happens to be the same as Southern California, which is Loma Linda, which is another blue zone, which happens to be not dissimilar to Okinawa, which happens to be similar to other long-living areas of China as well, and Georgia as well, in Russia. So maybe this, I don't know the theory, this is just me spitballing. I mean, I have all these theories I'm playing with, but I believe that that has an effect. Now, people in the tropical climates tend to live less. Now, maybe it's to do with the speed of their metabolism, to do with the environment. But what's very interesting is we have a couple of people on our program who are of West African origin, but have lived in the United States for most of their adult life. They do not have the same effect, even though genetically they're very, very similar to African Americans from the Mississippi Delta. They have much better health. Now, I don't know the answer to that. Again, I can have theories, and we have a small sample size. I think a lot of that's to do with diets and other things in America. But so, in other words, you're looking realistically between 48 and 52 is an average. That's about the average. So 50 years old. 50 years old is a round number. But remember, for every year that you go through later, you live 2.1 years longer, which ironically is the same number as the sustainable population number, which is a bit weird, but there you go. But yeah, I don't know the answer to that why, but that's what it is.
Can a woman freeze her eggs at 55 if she has no signs of menopause?
Yes.
Okay. And here's a question from Gigi.
Hey, so I'm wondering why you haven't gone through it yet.
Me?
Yes, I'm just curious because I would be probably jumping on it as soon as you were getting.
Why I haven't gone through it? Because I can still do things I could do when I was 30 years younger. So I don't need to do it yet. But I still work on a series of, so have I done the stem cells myself? I'm wanting to get some more lines on my neck first before I fix it. I mean, to be honest, but because I want to work on that. But the main reason is because I don't need it yet. That being said, I have used elements of the protocol beforehand, so I haven't done the whole range, but I will be doing it very soon.
Would you say that once you start seeing signs of aging or something like that, that's when is the optimal time
Yes,
to
absolutely,
do it?
absolutely. So I would say it depends what you define as aging, right? So is it having lines on your face? I mean, is it right? You know,
Whatever it is
whatever
to you,
that you define,
right?
And also some things. So for me, there is the aesthetic. There's also the physical ability, like going running, or can you still run 100 meters as what you could when you were 21?
And that goes into my other quick question we had. Will it increase your sexual longevity?
Yeah.
Last question is from John.
Thank you.
So basically, the life force of a human, the software, if you will, is to, from a biological perspective, is to mate. That's what our process is. So you want to keep female and male potentially in the mating game, if you will, for as long as possible. So you kind of hack the system, because there's always that hypothesis that once nature is done with you, you go through menopause and you don't have that sex drive as vigorous as you did when you were in your 20s. So you want to extend that for as long as possible.
Absolutely.
And that would be kind of like a cheat code to live as long as possible, Because if you're getting a period,
it's not a cheat code. You're
Right.
you're doing an encore. I mean, you're just doing an encore. You know, you're just a Reno. It's not
Sounds
a cheat
good.
code. But yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it's about. But the thing is with this, it is not. Look, I took up full contact fighting at 36 years old. I'm 53 now, right? So I took up 50, right? So I took it up, and I 52. So I took up fighting, and I remember going into the gym, doing all this fighting and stuff, and then and I lied about my age because no one would let you do it until you got in the ring. Once I got in the ring, I was doing some good stuff. And right now I can go to, and I will handily stake my claim on this, I can go and do that. Now that is a cheat code, yeah, but there's a price you pay for that. It's not a free lunch. Because those things you had when you were young, that aggression, that dynamism, that constant, like, you still have it. You just have an awareness of how to control it better. And that does make a difference. So it's not a free lunch. It's like giving kids some gasoline in a box of matches and saying, don't burn yourself, right? You just can't do that. But yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Zack Varkaris. All right, that was great. Let's bring up our next speaker, who is the founder of this church and a cornerstone in the age reversal movement around the world, Mr. Bill Faloon.
Let's see, is this mic working? Okay. Okay, my clicker, very good. I want the group to know that there is a very fortuitous convenience that occurred in response to Zack's talk. I only knew about his talk about 7-8 days ago, but about 6 weeks ago, I concluded authoring an extensive analysis of all the published literature that deals with the fact that early onset menopause predisposes people, unfortunately, to all kinds of degenerative disease risk and early death. And my objective in writing about this is women who do undergo early onset menopause have to be very careful about their cardiovascular risk factors, their diabetic risk factors. They have to be especially attentive to all of the underlying causes of heart disease, stroke, insulin resistance, because they're more vulnerable to that. And that was the only solution that I had 6 weeks ago when I finished authoring this paper that will be published around August 2024. It's gone through extensive medical peer review, and you'll all get to read that, I think, over the next 5 to 6 months. But what's spectacular is Zack just presented a potential solution, as opposed to not just watching your cardiovascular risk factors and diabetic indicators, that you might be able to do something about it. So just to review what I researched for several months, put it together in about a 3,000-word article, is that early onset menopause, that's menopause before age 45. That's not good. And it's not a lot you can do about it. Some women undergo, unfortunately, chemotherapy for a malignancy. Sometimes they have to undergo removal of their reproductive organs, and they can't help it. They undergo menopause. And the penalty they pay, unfortunately, well, I've listed it here on this screen. One analysis, looking at all kinds of different data, a 50% higher risk of coronary artery disease relative to women who undergo menopause after age 45. 45 seems to be that boundary where if you undergo menopause before then, unfortunately, your risk of a heart attack increases, coronary artery occlusion increases. So that was one analysis. Another study looked at early onset menopause, and there was a 19% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease and a 12% increased risk of overall death. So while I was writing all this, my frustration is, well, people can at least reduce their heart attack risk factors, but the fact is that menopause is not really a controllable factor until you heard Zack talk. So I'm going to be looking into what he's doing in a major way, because I might now be able to offer people a solution who are undergoing early stage, early phase menopause. And also the severity of menopausal symptoms. Those who have an easy way through menopause, well, they live longer. And women who suffer severe menopausal symptoms, turns out they have a 50% higher death rate. Wow. And again, that's not always easy to control menopausal symptoms. So it's not a woman's fault. There's not a lot she can always do about it. Of course, she can use hormones and that sort of thing, but we don't have the data yet as to whether or not that is the real solution to offsetting the adverse impact of early onset menopause. So these are 3 different bullet points I have on the screen right now. Menopause before age 45. Not a good thing, but at least now there's a solution to it. And this data talks about diabetic risk and overall death rates. And women, again, without diabetes who unfortunately undergo early onset menopause, 42% increased death rate relative to menopause after age 54. The longer you can delay menopause, the longer you get to live. Zack talked about that. What I've done is put together the hard data sets that I'll be publishing in this article so people understand this is a major issue. If there's anything we can do to delay the onset of menopause, prolong the reproductive age of a woman, that's really, really good news. It's going to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes, which is running at epidemic levels in this country right now. And it turns out that women with type 2 diabetes and early onset menopause, 64% increased death rate. These are hard data sets. I reviewed many, many papers to put together what will be like a 3,000-word article to describe this problem. And what I'm advocating in that article is if you suffer early onset menopause, we'll be very cognizant of your cardiovascular risk factors, your diabetic risk factors. Be more vigilant because unfortunately you're predisposed to increased risk of these terrible problems. And it's not just work that I did. The Bloomberg Business Week magazine, read by high-end people, they published in December 2023 that a huge breakthrough in longevity may start with delaying menopause. That a woman's biological clock, in fact, is controlled by when menopause sets in. And if we can extend the fertility period, extend the reproductive phase of their life, we get to improve overall human health and longevity. So I did not know Zack had this type of program available when I started writing that article. And the great news is there's something that can be done about it, maybe for the first time in history. And what the Bloomberg Business Week did is on their December 20th, 2003 issue, they dedicated a whole issue to the longevity sciences. Information that most of you have already heard about, but they're now letting millions of high-end people understand that aging is a controllable factor, lots of money and effort being put in to enable people to live longer. And they talk about the increased immortality-obsessed frontier that we're all engaged in. It's not just people who attend this church or belong to some of the organizations I founded. The general public, high-end people, are recognizing aging is a real problem, and there is ways to, or I should say there are ways to intervene into aging to potentially slow down the process. Famous people like Mr. Altman founded ChatGPT, sold it for a whole lot of money, and he's putting big money into aging research to extend healthy lifespans. And they talk about wanting to live an extra 5 or 10 years. These individuals really want to live forever. Their objective is to do a stair-step approach, buy an extra 10 years with a technology, another 10 years with another technology, and at some point, technology emerges, and we get to live a real long time. This data, again, published in the Bloomberg Business Week issue, December 2023, talked about half of the people born today, the 5-year-olds, they're going to make it to age 100. Society's not yet prepared for it, but in reality, this is going to be a very beneficial effect, longer productive lifespan, so people don't have to retire at 65 or 70. They can be functional at age 90, 100, 110. Functional people are good for society, a benefit to society. So these are some of the areas highlighted in the Bloomberg Business Week issue. Reprogramming our genes. In March, I'm going to be talking a lot about technology that has emerged in which people are traveling to other countries and they're having their bodies genetically modified. They're changing their gene expression in a way that is inducing a lot of benefits, a reduction in visceral fat, improved muscle mass, and 12 years reduction in epigenetic aging markers in response to certain gene therapies. I'll be discussing that at the March service at this church, but it's already being discussed in the most popular publications around the world. I usually publish those here at the church. I relate as to what the mainstream media is talking about. They're talking about living longer, using technology to live longer. And a lot of this is emanating out of Silicon Valley. These multi-billionaires who started from nothing, they used technology to accomplish the impossible. They're now simply transitioning that thought process into how do we defeat aging and death? How do we achieve immortality? Some of them are a little shy about talking about that. I'm not. I want to achieve that because I believe it's both possible and it will be a heck of a lot of fun to not worry about dying. And they also talked about cryonics in this Bloomberg article about how some of the wealthy people, and you don't have to be wealthy to afford cryonics, you can do it through life insurance, they're going to be cryopreserved so they can take advantage of future technology. And at that point in time, aging will almost certainly be a reversible phenomenon. People reanimated will probably grow biologically younger, or they'll be reanimated biologically younger. So again, the mainstream picking up on what we've talked about at this church for many, many years. Now, David Sinclair, he's gotten a tremendous amount of publicity. We applaud his genetic research. He's one of 3 scientists who put aging in reverse using Yamanaka transcription factors. He did an interview with Peter Diamandis, a podcast, and it was really interesting, some of the highlights of this, and I just highlighted them here on this slide here, where Peter Diamandis asked David Sinclair, is aging something that we can really control? Is there any upper limit as to how long people live? And David Sinclair responded, it's not even a question. There is no upper limit to how long people could live, in other words, and that's a geneticist at Harvard who has already put aging in reverse in the animal model. So this is really good news, because when this church was founded in 2013, we did not have Harvard geneticists talking about people living indefinite periods of time. We're now seeing it on a consistent basis. And David Sinclair talked about something that we've learned at this church, transcription factors, these switches that turn on the expression of beneficial genes that can enable us to live a heck of a lot longer. He's talking about a switch, literally flipping a switch. And you've seen this at this church for the last couple years. Transcription factors are proteins that help turn on and off the genes that we want to have turned on, the pro-youth genes, and we want to silence genes that can create cancers, that can accelerate aging. So transcription factors can reprogram old cells into stem cells, younger cells that can regenerate tissues throughout our body. There's about 15 different transcription factors we know about right now, and as they study more and more of them, they continue to get more impressive results. So David Sinclair talking about potentially curing blindness, glaucoma-induced optic nerve degeneration. He has done that in the laboratory model. He is bringing that into the clinic, clinical research, and if that yields the results in people that it did in his laboratory, we're going to see a massive amount of interest in this type of regenerative medicine, i.e. using transcription factors to restore youthful vitality to every cell in our body. And Dr. Sinclair also talked about reversing the aging of our brain. And he's done it in the animal model, reversing dementia, keeping us cognitively proficient for indefinite periods of time. He's done it in his laboratory. Other scientists are doing it in their laboratory. The prospect of age reversal is no longer a prospect. It's turned into biomedical reality. And as we translate that into human populations, I can't wait, frankly, to see some of the older people that are part of our group grow biologically younger. And we can measure that. We can measure epigenetic aging. We can measure all kinds of surrogate markers of aging and ascertain, are we really putting these people into significant degrees of age reversal? We can do that by the number of years. And one of these gene therapies reversed epigenetic aging 12 years. I'll be talking about that in March. It is exciting data. Some of this is freshly published over the last couple days, which is why I'm not talking about it at this service. We have to analyze it first. We'll present that in March. So you've heard us talk about the Salk Institute research where they were able to systemically reverse aging using Yamanaka factors in live mice. There's 2 other studies that have also demonstrated this effect. Much of this research now is being expanded into primates, into other types of animals, and eventually into people. We will essentially have injections of transcription factors put into our body. Our cells will grow biologically younger. I'm going to review a slide that I put together so people understand how this works. Now, this is a Salk Institute work where they used the 4 Yamanaka factors in live mice. And what they were able to do is systemically administer these so they absorbed these transcription factors into the cells. The transcription factors, all 4 of them, were used in the Salk Institute study in order to reprogram old cells back into pluripotent stem cells that then would differentiate into functional young cells. And in doing that, in live mice, they were able to induce systemic age reversal. And Zack talked a little bit about his methods of doing this. The idea of using transcription factors is going to be, they're going to be inexpensive, they're going to be available, I think, to the entire population. These may eradicate biological aging in our lifetime. And there's a couple ways of doing it. And the way that we're looking at it right now is we want to just use 3 out of the 4 Yamanaka factors. That's c-Myc. It's great at producing a cellular proliferation, and that can be very important. But the problem is that proliferation could result in cancer. We don't want cancer, so we're going to delete c-Myc and use just the OSK, 3 out of the 4 Yamanaka factors, and do it in a way that we partially reprogram old cells into younger cells. And I use the word partial reprogramming because we don't want to reprogram ourselves all the way back into the embryonic state. We simply want to take our 80-year-old cells, get them back to around the age of 25 from a biological and a functional standpoint. And by doing that, well, we become younger. Younger cells equal younger people. And that's been demonstrated in 3 independent live mouse studies. The next step is primates and then people. But this method can enable us to potentially enable cellular longevity in a way that we keep the Yamanaka factors in the cells, we express them just transiently. We don't want them programming our cells younger all the time. We just want them to maintain healthy, young cellular function, turn them off, turn them back on again. There's several methods that can do that, and there are at least 6 different delivery methods that our research groups are looking into to deliver Yamanaka transcription factors into our old cells with the purpose of inducing systemic age reversal. This is the most fantastic technology I've ever been involved in. And being able to, several times a week, talk to scientists who have done this in the animal model. They can't wait to move it into primates. They believe they're going to see a significant degree of age reversal occur within the next year or 2. We are in a hurry. We have a lot of older people who are relying on us to find a way to cure aging. So we're putting our time and our money. And Dr. Sinclair talked about age reversal being a reality, and he's talking about systemic benefits, spinal regeneration, regrowing our nerves, repairing our damaged genes, all the horrific effects that occur with biological aging using these transcription factors in all kinds of different ways, we expect will eventually enable people to biologically live for indefinite periods of time in great states of health. If they develop a disorder, the doctors who will be essentially geneticists will say, we'll just reprogram your cells to get rid of that problem, and then you'll be okay. And my last slide talks about the Evolution Group. This is in Saudi Arabia. Now, a couple years ago, they announced they were going to spend $1 billion a year to find ways to enable people to live a lot longer, to live a lot healthier. The challenge is when you have a lot of money, doesn't mean you can induce success. You have to find the scientists. You have to make sure the scientists have a program that has a degree of possibility of working. And they've spent the last couple years investigating that. We've had some of our scientists fly to Saudi Arabia to meet with the Evolution Group. They do want to spend the money. And the good news is they've identified 49 studies that they're going to fund with about $115 million. And they're looking at another group of studies to spend an additional $115 million. They would like to spend more money. It's just a matter of finding the scientists, finding the protocols that have a degree of likelihood of working. But this is an update just a couple of days ago that came out because initially when the Saudis announced this, everyone was real excited. Wow, all this research is going to occur, but you have to have the right scientists in place, the right equipment, the right lab, the right protocols. We are doing that right now with Yamanaka factors ourselves. The good news is we're getting help from around the world, Singapore, Saudi Arabia, a lot of money going into aging research. So that's my presentation for tonight to update you. And again, I'm going to talk about the fortuitous coincidence that I wrote an extensive article, it's under medical review right now, that early onset menopause means, unfortunately, you die sooner. You die sooner from all kind of problems, and there's now a potential solution that Zack described to enable people to maybe regain some of that lost energy and vitality that the premenopausal women enjoyed. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Questions for Bill? Rudy.
Yeah, hello. Fabulous presentation as always, Bill. My question is this: would the reprogramming of cells with the Yamanaka factors reverse possibly ossified factors of aging, like arthritis, that are kind of really hard and probably would be more problematic for reversal?
Yeah, you're probably talking about calcification, and that's an interesting question. As we grow older, our tissues, no matter what we do, unfortunately, infiltration of calcium creates all kinds of mechanical issues. And I believe that we may see that occur. We don't know it yet, but I believe it will occur as we improve the function of our endothelial lining, where the calcium unfortunately penetrates sometimes and creates calcified arteries, calcified heart valves. I'd like to think we would see some sort of an improvement, but that's the reason we do research, to see if we can reverse those types of problems. As far as arthritis, well, that's a piece of cake. All we have to do is regenerate cartilage. So as it relates to arthritic conditions, spinal degeneration, those are easy, reversible aging processes. Calcification, that's something else. We're going to look into it, and if we can't do it through the technology that we're using, we'll just figure out another way around it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Faloon. Two great presentations. We appreciate you both, and tonight in your honor we have a great banquet for you, and it's an Indian food inspired banquet. I'd like to let you know, remind you that this event has been recorded. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. There's a link on our website, and we look forward to having you come again March 28th when we have presentations by Ben Azadi and Dr. Joseph Parida. Looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you for coming tonight.
May the good Lord be with you down every road you roam. And may sunshine and happiness surround you when you're far from home. And may you grow to be proud, dignified and true. And do unto others as you'd have done to you. The golden rule. Be courageous and be brave, and in my heart you'll always stay. Forever young, forever young, forever young, forever young. May good fortune be with you, may your guiding light be strong. Build a stairway to heaven with a prince or a vagabond. And may you never love in vain, and in my heart you will remain. Forever young, forever young, forever young, forever young, forever young. Come on, sing with me. Forever young. Singing keeps you young. Forever young. One more for me. choose. I'm right behind you, win or lose, forever.